Hi, welcome to Through the Noise. I'm your host, Ernesto Glucksman. My next guest, Jeremy Lang from Pela, started his journey in the world of making products that are better for the environment. He found himself at a beach in Hawaii, and as he was playing with this kid, he looked down and noticed trash, plastics left on the beach. That moment triggered an impulse for this guy to start his own business to figure out what can he do to help reduce the use of plastics. And he started really simple. He started saying, well, what if we made phone cases out of a material that can decompose instead of just live in the ocean or the trash for hundreds of years? Fast forward a few years from there, and next thing you know, he's got investments from the Jay-Z's investment firm, and his company is valued at $100 million. It's quite a journey, and it's also a really good proof of concept that there is a growing large marketplace of consumers that really want to buy things that are built the right way for the right reasons. Let's get on with the show. Okay, Jeremy, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm really excited to talk to you because you have just this interesting background that got you here to be this entrepreneur, materials engineer, science person. But you didn't start off there, right? So before we get into what Lomi and Pela, like what they are and what that stuff's about, can you start with the journey here as to like how did you get into this line of work that you're in?
Yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to start when I was 10 because this is a
10.
big.
Because I was jump in there on Hawaii.
Yeah, you can, but I won't take long. The 10 story won't take long. I think it's an important story because it started with waste. When we were 10 years old, I grew up on the Canadian prairies here, and I remember driving in my dad's big old white Buick, and we're floating down the highway across the prairies, and it was harvest time, and the horizon was like glowing orange, and it was getting dark out, and we came out of this valley, and I saw these big fields on fire, like these balls of like fire in the fields. And the reason I remember it is because I was scared. It was like an eerie feeling. So I asked Dad, hey, what's going on? And Dad said, well, the farmers, they grow the flax to harvest the oil seed, and the fiber in the straw that's left over is so strong it gets caught up in their equipment, so they burn it. And I said, well, if it's that strong, it must be good for something. And he said, well, maybe when you get older, you can think of something. So that's where the waste journey kind of began.
You were thinking in those terms. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I remember and it's so neat because I always talk about, my dad could have said, well, that's just the way it is. But he said, well, maybe when you get older, you can think of something, like a challenge, right? And that was in the back of my head. Anyway, fast forward, I went to the University of Saskatchewan, got a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, started working as an environmental consultant, climbing the corporate ladder, was doing very well, but I always had another goal. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I had this voice in my head to start a company. So in 2007, I started a company called Open Mind Developments. And the idea was to look at things with an open mind for a different view. Nothing else matters. It's from a Metallica song, nothing else matters. But just looking at things differently. And then 2008, a year later, we were on vacation in Kauai on this beautiful secluded beach. I didn't have a product in mind for Open Mind Developments, but I was looking for a problem to solve. And we're on this beach, and my son's a year and a half at the time, and we're digging in the sand. And there were little pieces of plastic everywhere. And I had never seen that before. And I'm like, who would litter on this beautiful beach? And why does my son have to dig in someone else's litter? Like, it really bothered me. And so when we got back...
Did you think it was like just like trash that just like...
I kind of did.
Just left it on the sand?
Yeah, it was like, this is 2007. So exactly. Yeah, it was... It was 2007. So this plastic in the ocean really wasn't talked about that much. And anyway, looked into it, found out about the Pacific Gyre, and like that's where the plastic in the Pacific Ocean washes up on the shores of Hawaii and kind of everywhere, and found out that the litter was actually from all of us. Because the whole end of life of plastic, we don't have that figured out. It's getting worse. Recycling's not working. How many technologies over the last 50 or 60 years have gotten worse? Like it's like I think it's less than 4% now actually gets recycled. So. Anyway, wanted to find us another solution for that, so developed a material that was sustainable and biodegradable and based on these biopolymers that were bio-based, but at the time they were very brittle, so they had very limited application. So they were really only used for like utensils, plastic utensils, And then I remembered the flax being strong. What if we combine these two together? We can make a material that was stronger, could be applied to more products, and developed a material called flax stick, and then did the R&D, needed a product to start with, and phone cases had just come out. This is now, well, not just come out. This is now 2010, 2011. The iPhone 4 had come out, and everyone had one. It was really exciting. Like everyone was getting these phones, and so kind of wanted to be part of that wave, but also realized how wasteful it was. Like you keep your phone for 2 years, yet the case to protect it will last for hundreds or thousands of years and end up in the landfill. Like it seemed ridiculous. So launched the very first Pela case in 2011 and kind of just went from there.
2011. Yeah, and in that time, I guess the brittleness of the other material, you need something that's like flexible
Yes.
and that holds itself without deforming, right? But strong enough to withstand like a shock if you drop your phone. Did you think I guess by then you already, you had already worked with stuff. I mean, you were environmental consultant, you've seen other things. So you knew who to talk to probably at that point,
Yeah, there
right?
were a lot of phone, but you just figure it out, right? Like I went to back to my university and said, hey, what if I combine this biopolymer with this flax? And we did the experiments in the engineering department and the agriculture department.
Ooh, tell me about that because I've like it only until recently occurred to me that you could go back to your university and like just walk the labs and try to find products that or technologies that need help getting to a market, right? Or if you have this idea, find kids that could help you shape it, right?
Yeah. So we worked out a deal where I met with a fellow there, and he's like, "Yeah, we can do it. We've kind of done some research on it," and started working with him, and literally like trying beeswax and potato starch and different types of fiber, and mixing them together, and then put them in an injection molding machine, and trying to figure out how to get it to work. And and that was kind of the origin of it. But it worked well because they weren't charging full price, and I received some government funding to help with the R&D to get to that next step kind of thing. So yeah.
Did you have some like, other guiding friends that did something like this too? Or were you just like on your own, just pick up the phone and just go?
On my own, just kept calling and picking up the phone and figuring out, and like persistence, and just, you're not, I don't know, just not going to stop. I'll figure it out. You don't know how much you don't know at that time. But like even the packaging, drawing the packaging, calling people, say, hey, can you help me make this packaging? Or, and then the injection molding, working, like literally knocking on a guy's door who's still with us today, Bernie. And he let me in his injection molding machine company. He's like, yeah, I guess we can. Like, he didn't turn me away for this little job, and started making the first phone cases, and figured out how to make the mold and get designers to do that, and you just keep going, right? It's like I always think of the saying, to get to the top of the stairs, you don't have to see every step, you just have to see the next one, and you just keep going.
Yeah,
And
in
just
fact,
trying
if
to
you
figure
if
it
you
out.
if you could probably see all the steps, you probably wouldn't go on that journey. You're like,
It's
wait a
so
minute.
true.
This is
So true.
so sometimes
Oh man,
being somewhat naive
that's
on like how
right.
hard it's going to be.
Yes, ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's like it's amazing because that effort changes the trajectory of your life, right? Like that meanders. I mean, that was just sort of like the first stage.
Yeah.
Then what happened? Like, cause we don't. I mean, you could tell if you want to share how you started. How did you take some of those products to market? Would be cool. But
Sure. Yeah, no, so started just getting help from friends too. I had a buddy who knew how to make websites. And so this is like 2011, we launched the very first Pela case for the iPhone 4. And it is, you know, they say if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you waited too long. Like it's never going to be perfect. I'm embarrassed by it, but I mean, it got it out there. And there are a lot. So just leaned on people, like who can help me make this website, and started selling them online. And I was still working full time right up until actually 2018, January of 2018. So this was on the side out of our basement till kind of 2017-ish. But so 2011 to 2015, working like full-time job, evenings, weekends, holidays, everything was Pela, Pela, Pela. You know the story. My wife and I are like, oh my God, what are we doing? We're just barely like hanging on here, and we're making the product better. So the big change came when I realized that I needed help, and I started working with a coach. And I worked on my strengths and weaknesses and learned a lot. Like I was always into like, well, not always, 2007 is when I started the company, but started doing a lot of self-work and studying businesses and, other entrepreneurs and like just mindset and all that, trying to make myself better. And 2015, I'm like, I need help. I applied to this entrepreneur event. It's called Mastermind Talks, put on by a Canadian, Jason Gaynard. And they get like thousands of applications and they only let 100 people in every year. And I just got vulnerable and said, here's what I'm trying to do, but I need help. And I got in. And it was in Napa Valley in 2015. And the first night I got there, I'm like, I do not belong here. Like, these people have these businesses that are doing all these crazy things. And I called my wife and I was almost like, I was breaking down. And she goes, no, just keep going. And so met amazing people. By the end, they figured out, oh, this is my group. This is my tribe. They get how I'm thinking. That was my first support group. And that's where I met my first business partner, Matt, our CEO, and our chairman, Brad, my other co-founder, was there. So the three of us were all there. And it was a highly curated event. But I knew how to make the product. I had these crazy dreams. Matt was a very successful marketing fellow. He had his own company. He knew how to market the product. Brad knew how to scale the product. He was in the toy industry for 25 years, literally sold billions of pieces of products. Production. So make, market, scale. And then we started to really, 2017 worked a little more closely together. 2018 is like January. That's when we really nailed everything down and like set the vision. Okay, we're going to create a waste-free future. We're going to create everyday products with everyday waste. We're going to eliminate 1 billion pounds of waste from the waste stream. That was based on like phone cases. So we created a new category around compostable phone cases and accessories, and that's Pela. And then we just kept growing from there. And 2019 is when we did our first Series A. So that's the two major leads. So there was
now's enough money to partner up, right? That starts to be serious.
Yeah, that was a big deal, like building the team. So it starts with your first team's your family, and then you get outside help, and and then you find your partners, right? And then you just keep making the team stronger, get A players, and then you're benched as far as your investors and all of that. It just keeps, that's the way I look at it, is just stronger management team and leadership team and coaches and all of that, front end staff, back end staff. That's the way I kind of think of it in team sports. And so 2019, just growing crazy, like we were in the top 10 fastest growing company in Canada and all that. So that's when things really started to take off.
Hold on, let me step in because I want to get an understanding of some of this. Because how did you know? I mean, first of all, the really hard part is just creating the product. It's like even the feasibility. Can we make this product? Can we make this thing happen? And a lot of energy probably gets put into just the technicalities of dealing with that.
Yes.
I mean, never mind like scaling. Just can we make this thing attractive enough at a compelling enough price, right, for somebody to purchase it? But somewhere along the line, then you got something. It might not be the cheapest priced, or like it might have certain features that make sense. But then finding the marketing becomes really important, right? Because like, where's the audience that really cares about this? Now, there's lots of different ways people go through that process. Like they find an audience, then make a product for that audience, or they have a product and try to find like that. That combination is like really tough. That's part of my interest in this show. Is like, how did you know once you had it that there was a large enough marketplace to then go after partners, series, all of that? Like, because before people give you real money, they need to see customers. But then, like, they're going to ask you, like, where's the bigger addressable market, right? Like,
yeah.
Can you shed some light in that area?
So it is a large, like phone cases and accessories it's $20 billion plus market. It's a massive market.
But
and then I just remember thinking about, I wanted to be D2C to start with. Like this is 2011, 2015, and even like, because we could get around the gatekeepers, we could get direct to the customers who cared about sustainable products. And, Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans, that type of thinking is in the head. And like literally we would handwrite notes and handwrite everything. And thank you for your order. It means a lot to us. Thank you for helping make the planet a better place.
You're hoping that attention, that kind of, can you tell another friend?
Yes. And like finding like Matt to do the marketing, like I remember it was like, he explained that we are pushing a snowball up a hill, and we just keep trying to find different audiences. Actually, one of our biggest hits is we started engraving on our cases, and we engraved a turtle and a bee. So like a bee pattern, and the bee pattern, they both kind of, the turtle was pretty good, but when we did a bee one and the bee lovers and hit that audience and the zero wasters, then it really took off. Now you're like, the main part about the phone too is we believed from day one, if it's going to be eco-friendly, it should look eco-friendly. So people, when they set it down, they can start telling the story of, hey, here's a more sustainable way to make a product. And you can tell your friends about it. So that word of mouth started to go, and we have a really high repeat customer rate because we treat our customers like they are the most important thing. That was from day one. Like, thank you for helping make a difference in the world. And, your little things, the little choices we make really do add up. So.
Right, making that's interesting. So it's kind of making the product personalized enough for the target audience to make it a talking piece, right? Like oh, I haven't seen that kind of case. What's that about?
Yeah.
Or look at this cute little bee on it. Oh, yeah, let me tell you about this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love bees and all that stuff.
That's that attention to detail is super important. It gives people a reason to talk, right?
Yes, but it was like, it was a lot of. But once it hit, we went 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. Like, it just like year after, it was that, but it was
that
5 or 6 years of at least finding that type of thing. So yeah, finding that audience. It was a lot of
So then that's your data customer. Basically, you can then trend that, right, a little bit at a time. And then when you go with the bigger investors, you can say, well, here's already, and this is how we market to them. And this is the reason they're growing this way. It's because of the way we designed it, the way we approach the customer base. So you're like basically building the audience, because there's no like easy, like, hey, let me make this ad. And I just want to, well, it's become easier.
Well, yeah.
But it wasn't, I bet, back then.
Yes. And I like I said, I'm so fortunate to have Matt as a partner and Brad, my two partners, that marketing guru. And I remember that one of the very first things we went to, the three of us, this is like January of 2018. We went to like a high performance forum, to growing companies. And the very first thing that they talked about is the most successful companies in the world are 90% marketing, 10% product. Because if you have the best product in the world and no one knows about it, you've got nothing. So, and that just was like, okay. And if we want to change the world, people need to know about us. So just the energy around that.
And that's hard, right? From a like hardcore material science guy to accept some of that, because it's like,
it is.
I made the product itself should sell itself. Like the product, that's the thing we're moving, right? But you need that marketing engine around it. Yeah, that was a hard lesson for me and my managing partner. We're tech guys. We're in servers. We're messing around, and it took years for us to realize, wait a minute, marketing is actually really, really important. It's become its own business unit part of the business we have, because it's so fundamental. And it's just funny how everybody still starts at like the beginning, like it's the product. Yes,
it has to be good to get them coming back. You still need a good, smart product and make them feel good.
Right.
But they need to know about it.
They need to know about it. And then the few that actually take the chance, make the purchase, get the product, then that product has to really be solid. It can't be some knockoff thing. It's got to be like that. I feel good about this purchase.
Right. Like the Tesla car, right? It has to be a good car. It's an amazing car. It's safe, it's fast, it's smart, and it's eco-friendly. It's an amazing phone case. It's protective. It feels good. It makes you feel good, and it's eco-friendly. Like
now it's got the trifecta. Now you have a new audience that's hard to penetrate on its own with just the cheap stuff. Like you got to do it right. Boom, that's your market barrier. All of that feeds into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to fast forward a little on this, because somewhere along this story, Jay-Z, what?
Yeah.
What happened? What's going on?
Well, 2019, we started thinking that, we're growing and we didn't really need it, but we thought we wanted to make sure we had some dry powder in case we did need it. And Brad, our chairman, he knew a fellow in Canada, Kensington Capital, and started asking, here's what we're thinking about. And they said, oh, wait, we'll invest. And we have this other company called Marcy Ventures. That's Jay-Z's investment company. And they partnered up, and yeah, we raised our first Series A, and I think,
That was the Series A.
yeah, it was a Series A. So
Did Marcy Ventures have an interest, or they're just, or like, does Jay-Z have an interest in this kind of product category, or just like they're just looking for like interesting, fast-growing businesses?
they're big on like trends and like the way where things are going. So that's what they were really saw, how things are going to more sustainability, and like, so that is kind of neat how they know, like they get a feel of what's happening almost in the street, right? And like go there kind of thing. So
But it's a combination of two things, right? Like they see what happens on the street, obviously the pop, but also just the deals that they get exposed to so much, and they start to see the new deals that are coming up, and they're like, "Wow, this is an actual factor that's proving there's a customer base," right? I
yeah.
mean, so much of like the eco-friendly narrative of products in the past has been like it's a cost center. It's a
Yes.
it's no one's gonna buy that. There's always the cheaper stuff is always more available. But I think those folks are stuck in sort of the old way of thinking. It kind of goes through to the open minds concept.
That's right. You need to be, and that's how we built from we wanted to be the most environmentally and socially sustainable company and eliminate waste. So we measure everything around waste. Like even we talk about like, are we wasting time in this meeting?
I mean, kind of,
Yeah,
probably.
not you and I, but no, I don't think we are. But you know what I mean? Like we can apply that to everything, and it's not just a bolt on, oh, yeah, we're doing all this, and we're going to just do a little something environmentally on the side. No, we are like starting, that's what we want to try and do, and use business as a force of good. Can it be a vehicle to help support nonprofits and to inspire people to think other ways and to show people that we can use more sustainable materials and create more sustainable infrastructure and that type of thing. So
This brings us up into this world of your latest product. So like when I go to the Pela website, it just refreshes to your flagship product now, right? Lomi.
yes.
What is Lomi? Give us a
Yeah,
little bit of it.
Lomi is the world's first smart waste appliance. So, and humans are the only species that create waste. There is no waste in nature. And when you are done with your food scraps, those food scraps are supposed to go back to the earth. When we put them in the landfill, that's the worst thing we can do because they rot and turn into methane and create greenhouse gas emissions. The food waste rotting creates like there's a lot of waste, but the greenhouse gas emissions around food waste is like 8% of the global like greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a big deal. So we are using technology to make it as easy as possible for people to push a button, turn your food waste into like soil, dirt, healthy material, organic matter that goes back to the earth to feed the plants and grow the next, just repeat the cycle. So everything in nature goes in cycles. We talked about how unnatural plastic is because it's a linear progression. It doesn't go in cycles. So that's what we're trying to do with Lomi and create a whole new category around smart waste appliances. And
Yeah, I have like one of those black turn like composting things, and it's good because I'm lucky enough to have a backyard that I can go take some of the food waste. I'll be honest, not every time like I have the option is grind it up in the sink, or take it out
flush it
there.
down the drain.
And I've been wanting to figure out like, okay, I think I need to just get a bucket that I can just put stuff in, seal it, and when it fills up, walk it out there. But at the end of the day, that extra step is like that's an issue, especially like apartment dwellers. Like, what did they do?
That's a
Like
hard behavior to change. So we're just trying to make it easier. So yeah, and like the soil is starving for organic matter. Like that is supposed to go back to the earth. That's nature's fertilizer. We've never had a need for synthetic fertilizers for billions of years. So it's just, and then using technology, I think it was Peter Diamandis that heard this just analogy of just like, we used to get oil from whales. Like, and then we figured out how to use technology to drill into mountains and get coal. And then we figured out how to drill into the ground and get oil and gas. And now we're figuring out how to harness the sun. So we used to put our food waste in the backyard. And then we used to have to turn it. And it used to take forever. That type of thinking. Now we put it in a Lomi device, push a button, then it can go right into the soil. Or it can go into your compost. Like that's the technology that we're using, the smart waste technology.
so how did that come to be? So is it like it's a cycle? It like heats it up. There's a little bit of heat, a little bit of what? Like what's happening in this thing?
Exactly. We are speeding up nature by adding energy. So if that apple falls from the tree, it might take a year to actually go back to the ground. But if it's in a compost, there's more heat, more energy, more microorganisms. Might take months. Put it in Lomi, it's hours. Like mixing, controlling the humidity. This is the exciting part from a materials or engineering or science standpoint. Is now we have this box where we can control the temperature, we can control the humidity, we can control the mixing, we can add enzymes if we want. We can just really nail that output and optimize it and use technology to make a better experience and make a better end product. So yeah, but yeah.
I mean, right off the bat, I'm sure somebody's watching this show and be like, yeah, but what about all the energy it takes to make the thing? What about the energy to actually, you're using the electricity? What about all that?
For sure. We've calculated all that. We've leaned on the EPA, has calculators, and we are actually applying to see if we can get a verified carbon credit through Gold Standard. You know, what's really interesting is the different places in the different provinces, different states, the energy is, if it's clean or dirty, right? If it's renewable or not, it just changes the amount of gain you're getting. Like if you have dirty energy, well, you don't merely gain that much. But I mean, and the other thing is, we're not trying to solve the energy problem. It's like, well, let someone else solve that problem, and it's going to happen. There will come a time when we talk about harnessing the power from the sun. We're getting there.
I hate that argument of like, oh, electric battery cars. Now you're just using more coal because you're drawing more energy. It's like, wait a minute. We can solve multiple steps. Some things like changing your community's energy source, primary source, is going to take a few more steps, but it's going to happen. You got to create that demand, though. You got to create that, like, okay, we have more energy consuming appliances with electricity. So you can apply pressure on the your energy providers and start saying, like, we need this changed, but it's like waiting for that to happen before you buy your battery pack or your Lomi whatever, or Tesla, what it
I
seems
know. I always
crazy to
get a
me.
kick out of, like, we're at least doing something good. Like, we're keeping that food waste out of the landfill and getting back in the soil, which is really good it's just good for nature.
Right, because the alternative is like stuffing that food in a plastic bag.
That's right.
Garbage truck comes by, spewing their pollution, grabbing that, taking it into a landfill, dumping it in there, having some other thing plow over it, and then the stuff's stuck in that plastic bag, festering and cooking until it punctures and then the gases leak. I mean, that's what's happening, right?
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
far more energy intensive than if you can figure out a step at the house where you're just drawing that in,
Yeah. It's decentralizing, democratizing waste management. That industry has not been disrupted. They get incentivized. The more weight they haul, the more they get paid. so I mean, what and the other, we always talk about, like, the energy thing. You could wash your dishes by hand. You can. That saves energy. You don't need a dishwasher. Or your clothes. We used to wash our clothes by hand. You don't. So I mean, like, that argument, we always think, at least we're trying to do something good and create these healthy habits.
Yeah, the only time that argument should even be discussed personally is like if there wasn't renewable energy, if there wasn't solar, if we have nothing else other than burning coal, and that's all we had or whatever. I mean, then yes, then yeah, okay, we should all probably turn off our appliances, turn off the heat, turn off the AC, because we're just spewing it out. But there are alternatives, and the alternatives have now proven that it's cheaper maintenance long term. A full solar power plant is going to be cheaper to maintain and keep going than a coal power plant. So the market's going to fix that. There's going to be less and less investors interested in putting up another coal power plant. They're going to shift to the thing that's more efficient.
Absolutely. And how can we be more efficient? Even that, we're trying to make our equipment, Lomi's, the most efficient as possible. And as we go, we'll keep doing that and make the cycles even smarter, so we need less time. But the other big savings is we reduce the waste by about 80%. So when you talk about your organics waste collection bin, well, when Lomi's are ubiquitous and everyone has one, instead of filling up and picking up your organics waste collection bin every week, we can say, well, we know this many people are using Lomi. We know they've saved this much weight. You only have to pick it up every month or every 2 months. So what's the savings on getting those trucks off the road?
All right, because it is water intensive.
Yeah.
That's where the weight comes from.
That's where the weight comes from. So these trucks are at weight, they're overweight, but they're a quarter full because it's so dense and heavy and wet. So that's inefficient too. So just talking about wasting energy, That it applies to that too. Like we're wasting that garbage truck making that trip or that organics. We can help them make less trips. And instead of going to a compost facility to finish it, we can go directly into the soil. So we're doing a lot of testing, like, instead of just farm to table, we're going table to farm. Cut out that thing altogether, using technology to get it right in the soil. So right to the farm.
So it's interesting. So you create this product. I mean, you got some investors, you got a full team. It's very nice looking. It looks like a nice appliance, push button. It's got all the stuff that's attractive. How do you deal with not how do you what was the process like in calculating the carbon footprint of that process? How intense is that? Where is it at today? And who did you use to help you certify some of that?
Sure. So we, in 2019 is when we we became climate neutral certified. So we measure our carbon footprint. We do a life cycle assessment. We started with our phone cases and we compare it to conventional plastic cases and show how much less CO2 we use, how much less water we use, how much less waste we create. But we take our overall carbon footprint from scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, our entire operations and the contractors we hire, and we offset that by purchasing carbon credits to offset that. So we did the same thing with Lomi. We hired a third-party company to calculate that impact. We based it on existing methodologies. We have it on our website. We have we're applying to gold standard using these standardized methodologies. This is a little bit different because we call it micro scale. It's almost like replacing coal, oil lamps, burning lamps, in third world countries with solar. It's kind of the same idea. It's just keeping food waste out of the landfill. But we're also measuring now what is the value of that end product as a replacement to synthetic fertilizer, because that, instead of the baseline being we're comparing keeping your food waste out of the landfill and put it into the soil, that saves carbon emissions. What if the baseline is now this end product compared to synthetic fertilizer? That's what we're figuring out now, because it takes a lot of energy to make synthetic fertilizer, and when it hits the soil, it's not the greatest thing either, if it's not applied correctly. So that's another way we're looking at it. So hiring third-party companies to calculate the LCAs, so life cycle assessments, and our carbon footprint, working with Gold Standard, which is the standard for carbon credits. And yeah.
Just elaborate more on the kind of the scope 2, scope 3, because I think it's sort of like it's like looking at the product itself, looking at then the operations of the business, like how much carbon consumption you're doing. And then scope 3 is the one that's always hard, right? To me, consider, because you're looking at all the stuff they use outside of the business, your suppliers, what's
That's
that
right.
like? What's that like?
It's, scope 3 would be so scope 1 and 2 is that's the internal operations and running the company. So we own a manufacturing company that makes our phone cases. For Lomi, we had to, we contract that out. So scope 3 is we're contracting that out, and the shipping of the unit, all that stuff. It's not under our control really, but we still include that in our calculation because that is part of making the product. So that would be scope 3. We know that, so like I said, we know the footprint to manufacture a Lomi, how much CO2 equivalent emissions does it create to manufacture a Lomi and ship it to your house. And we offset that. So we know it's about 80 kilograms of CO2e. That's roughly what it takes. We pay for carbon credits to offset that. So we lower our emissions as much as possible by being more energy efficient. And you can take it so far, and there's some things you just can't eliminate yet. And then we offset that. So when it gets to your doorstep, it's zero. So when you plug it in and start using it from day one, it's pretty much you're making a gain on that.
I've seen this with other folks that I've had on the show. What's that like? Is it the shipping down to how far away you're shipping something? Is that at that granular level?
Yeah, pretty
or
much.
On average, your average.
We take our average, you have to, where are all the different parts coming from?
Okay.
And then they go to a manufacturing facility. Where's that manufacturing facility? What type of energy is it burning to run those machines? Are you putting it on the water from, China to North America? Or are you sending on planes? Is it going on trucks or trains? That type of thing. So they calculate all of that. They look at all those.
They do that calculation based on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about the shipping to the customer?
That's all included as well. They take an average of like, from this distribution center, it's this many kilometers to the customer. So
How does that how going through that extra experience doing to try to get these certifications, how has that impacted your overall operations, or has it?
yeah, it has. One of the ones is like we've opened up, like when we used to like shipping products. Well, we moved a lot of our manufacturing to Canada. Our phone case, we started in Canada, and then we were doing Canada and China, but like China was getting bigger in manufacturing. But with COVID, we increased our Canadian manufacturing. So now the bulk of it's done in Canada. But I mean, just simple ideas like instead of shipping a case from China to North America to Europe, let's ship it from China to Europe into a distribution. Shorten those shipping logistics.
Delays.
Yes. The delays and shorten the chains, the distance it has to travel or the number of times it has to travel. That would be one of the biggest ones. And then just getting an idea of like, oh yeah, like this is where are some areas we need to really focus on. So you can set the plan to reduce.
I mean, it's kind of like it intuitively, but it's to see the numbers actually map out. That's kind of help. Does that help with your
It
justification with
helps
your
with
business
everything, like
partners and your board members?
for sure. And even like on our customers and our phone case, for example, like when we compared, here's a conventional case, here's the carbon footprint of it, here's our phone case. And we're like, is it really better? Well, yeah, it is. I mean, we can prove that it's better and we can share that with our customers. And yeah.
And that the certifying bodies that are available, I think you guys were using for Lomi, you're using like what is it called? Climate neutral
Climate
certified.
neutral, and we also are climate partner certified, which is, we've just done that as well. So it's an additional layer on that. But
Well, where are you getting like when you go to something like a climate neutral certified, it's like if you're a new manufacturer, you've never heard of this group before, how do you figure out whether I mean, there's others, right, out
there
there.
are, yeah.
So how do you know this is the one?
It's relationships, and you check out how credible are they, and that type of thing, and yeah, who can you work with, and so that's basically how we did it. But you know, a lot of them, like Climate Neutral, also has. We use our third party reports. We give it to them and say, here's the detailed report, and then they use that as our footprint. But they also have a tool or a calculator where you can just enter in numbers, and they figure out roughly based on, well, you're manufacturing this in this area, we know it needs these components, here's your footprint kind of thing, and more based on revenue and numbers, whereas ours are more specific and actual. So,
Now, there's only certain so much time in the day, right, to figure out like you just going through the process with them, paying that company to do the certification, but then like the offset stuff, like you're trusting them to give you accurate offsets when you purchase it, right?
yes.
Did you go any deeper with that process, or did you just sort of rely on the advisors going, yeah, that's pretty good?
No, they are very clear. Most reputable companies are very clear on the offsets that they're purchasing, and they're like verified offsets. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you got to be careful of that. Like, oh, we're buying that tree. Well, did someone else buy that tree too? And did that tree die next year? Like we're counting that. You know what I mean? Like that. So you have to make sure that it's legitimate, and that's where like Gold Standard comes in. That organization, they make sure these projects are actual and legitimate and science based.
So would you say like literally the gold? It's called gold standard. I should
Gold
know.
standard is the kind of gold standard for carbon credits, would be the main one. Yeah.
Do you keep up though with like the criticisms of things like being greenwashed or like what's happened? Do they help to keep that, or you just sort of rely on that and they do the work? You've got to at some
I
point.
mean, you have to, they are professionals. That's what they do. They are a nonprofit. They're taking all the best information and science and data of the day, and someone has to standardize it. So they're doing that. So, and it's interesting because now with Lomi, we're looking at it from the other side. Can Lomis create this verified carbon credit? That's how so it's a whole nother.
Oh, okay. So if you get to a net neutral, below net neutral, right?
Yeah, we can sell our carbon credits because we have whatever, hundreds of thousands of people using Lomis, and we know that it saves this much in greenhouse gas emissions. So now we can sell those carbon credits to you if you want to purchase a carbon credit, and then we can use those credits to help, fund or purchase Lomis and get them into lower income areas, like that type of thing. So people who maybe can't afford them can now afford them.
Just by you being a consumer buying this, you could be helping you guys get more Lomis
Yes,
out the
by
door.
selling a carbon credit. That's kind of the whole carbon credit system, is to help incentivize and help make these changes from coal lamps to solar lamps in these third world countries that can't afford it, or to areas that can't afford it, or switch from coal to solar. That helps fund these projects to make it happen. So
Okay, I'm jumping all over the place. This is how my brain works. But listen, when I get the Lomi,
yes,
if I get this thing and I'm using it like, once a week, because let's say I'm a single guy and I'm just, not you, but I have a family. I actually have a family, so that's going to get used a lot more.
yeah.
Like, are you averaging that out? Are you sort of saying, okay, conservative baseline, this is how much each Lomi in general generates?
Yes.
How do you figure
We
that?
know roughly how much you can use it, and we can base it on the number of cycles on average. Like, we know, yeah. And we're working on making that a lot more like dialed in, so we can actually know exactly how much you're using. We know that, but we know based on statistics how many people, what the average person wastes for food in America in a year. What goes from the house to the landfill. And then we can make the assumption, we know Lomi can treat, 2 pounds of food per cycle. And we know based on customer service how often you're using it. So we can say per cycle, you're saving, this much in CO2e, depending on where you're located and depending on where you're putting it.
It would still be an extra step if you suddenly made it into like an internet appliance where it actually connects to the Wi-Fi.
You got it. We're working on that.
You working on that?
Yeah.
It's Lomi 2.0 coming to a store near you. Yeah, but I mean, that could be even more exciting, right? I mean, of course,
it is so exciting.
You have more components in there. It could increase costs, so you have to figure out when's the right time to scale that. That's where Brad, right? He's your scaling guy.
Yeah,
tells you when to execute on that.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's we are just getting started with Lomi. Like this whole smart waste appliance category, we are literally just getting started, and we are so excited about the future and potential of it. Yeah, we can go so far, and I'd love to tell you more, but next year I think I can. If you want to chat again, I'm biting my lip here because I'm really excited to tell you more about it.
Because I think I have, in Washington D.C., they've got a lot of friends that still live in apartments, and there are services where you can put your food waste in a bin, and somebody comes and picks it up and takes it to a composting space area, and you pay for that service. But at the end of the day, you're still using a truck collecting this wet, heavy stuff because it's not composting. So you're hoping that could turn into like a lighter, dried up. You could partner probably with some groups like that.
Yeah, the biggest thing people complain about in apartment buildings is noise. Someone's making noise and something smells. Well, the partying we can't stop, but the smell we can. If everyone in that apartment had a Lomi, it doesn't smell. It gets rid of the smell and the odors and the flies and all the gross stuff. Then you take it down into your bin. And now instead of your bin being filled every week, it's filled every 4 weeks or whatever, because we're reducing the waste by 80%. So now that doesn't have to get picked up every week. And now we're saving the apartment building and the users money because there's less trips to the compost facility.
So those groups that are doing that, picking up the stuff through those apartments, I mean, would you be open to making a deal with them?
Absolutely. Whatever we can do to make it easier, we're always about working with partners. And for them, they're getting a better end product. It's cleaner. It's more efficient. Usually to make, a compost facility would get 1,000 pounds of food waste in to get 200 pounds out because it, roughly, and it takes 6 months. Well, if they can get 200 pounds in and 200 pounds out in a month or in weeks.
Right, you're pre-composting this.
Yeah, and then we haven't even touched on the plastic side of it yet, but it's a tool that can be used to help keep plastic out of the landfill too. So,
what do you mean? Those go in there?
Well, yeah. So the main reason we came to Lomi is we like to think about the obstacle as the opportunity. What problem? Plastic waste was a problem.
It's very stoic of you.
Problem. Yes, there you go. You nailed it. It's Ryan Holiday?
Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah, but it's so neat when you look back, like we're always solving problems, and the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. The problem we had with our phone case that's compostable is not everyone has home compost not everyone has access to industrial compost. Industrial composters don't really like certified compostable products or plastics because they don't know. They don't know if it's certified or not. They don't have the resources to read every single piece of the package. So unfortunately, a lot of it, when it ends up in a compost facility, they see it as like, well, I don't know if this is compostable. It gets sorted out, and a lot of it will end up in landfill because they don't want to contaminate the food waste portion or the organics portion of it. So we said, well, what if we could, this isn't working. What if we could decentralize it and make it so everyone in their kitchen had a unit that could take our product and help it accelerate, break it down. So when it goes to a compost facility, it ends its life as compost. And that's what we did. And then along the way, we discovered how wasteful food waste was, right? Because we had that North Star of eliminating waste. So now we're looking at, we have a Lomi approved program where like all certified compostable products, if they go through Lomi first and break down, we approve them. And then when they end up in a compost facility, they end their life as compost. They don't get sorted out and end up in landfill. So that's the other side of it as well. And the other thing we're looking at is, what if garbage was optional? What if everything you consumed could go back to the earth? From your food scraps, to your phone case, to your shirt, to your Uber Eats container. That's the whole thing that's the crazy goal that we're working on.
Wait a minute. So there could be like my washer, my dryer, and then my giant Lomi compostable.
That's right.
Look at the tag. Oh, that's compostable. Throw it in that.
Yes. That's the holy grail that we're working on.
Ooh, okay.
Like I said at the beginning, we are the only species that create waste.
Jeremy, if you can crack that, you got a huge market. That's a
We're working on it, buddy.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're not publicly traded yet?
No.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
That didn't even occur to me. Wow.
Yeah.
Could I throw your phone case into the current Lomi, or is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we made it. That's why it works in Lomi. Like, it's
That was
like
your thought. Your thinking was
that was the way. We're focusing on our phone case. We need a better end of life for our phone case because another option. So let's make this controlled environment to break it down and accelerate that process. The very first time we got it to work, we had our phone case in with food waste and we turned it on. And the next day we came back and we couldn't see our phone case. We literally thought someone took the phone case out. But it's accelerated nature. These materials are meant to biodegrade in a compost environment, and we are creating an optimal environment to accelerate that process. Smart, using technology, right? So it's not sitting in a field somewhere. That's it. It's that simple.
Because I've had conversations with there's a bunch of groups. Corn Growers Association started something that try to bring in lots of different groups, like, companies like yours, trying to figure out, like, basically they're trying to get enough people together as a group to apply pressure on Congress to invest in infrastructure, compostable infrastructure. Because that's part of their problem is, like, at the industrial side, they can get the raw material, the corn husks, but they don't know what to do with it. And there's not easy ways to not offshore, just sort of off ramp into it. So it ends up in a landfill anyway, or ends up being incinerated somewhere without much concern. It's sort of like they need the government to step in at huge scale. But you're almost doing that at the consumer level.
We're supporting that. Like that, the California, because of they have 75% of all organic waste has to be diverted from landfill.
Oh, that's right.
They have to spend, it's something like $40 billion to build the infrastructure to take all these organics. Well, if everyone had a Lomi and we're decreasing that waste by 80% alone, we've essentially reduced the infrastructure by 80% and the capital cost. At the highest level, because it's, like I said, that 1,000 in, 200 pounds out. We can go 200 in, 200 out, or we can avoid that compost facility altogether and go directly to a farm.
Wow. This sounds like you're poised. When you were in Hawaii and looking at the plastics, did you ever think 10, 13, 14, 15 years later, you'd be sitting on, like, basically the potential cusp here of, like, a big...
Yeah, no, like, I remember, like, had $1 billion company dreams and, like, we could have this many sustainable companies or products doing this many things. But like I said, it's foggy. And the other neat thing about having partners and teammates is I dreamed it, but I kind of didn't believe it. But I dreamed it. But when other people start saying, oh yeah, we can do this, I've done it. It becomes more of a reality. and you believe it more, and then everyone believes it more. So that is an important thing, going from I've got this to we've got this, and people like, oh yeah, we've done it before. That confidence thing, yeah,
But also being, I would say it's like self-aware enough to let go of some of that and letting other people's, influence in there, right? I mean, especially investor money, right? Because they take a chunk of the equity, right? It's not free money. It's decision making.
it is. It's there's that's a whole nother show. But uh, it's bigger than us. The mission is bigger than us. It's bigger than any one person. That's the key. And infinite game. Throwing out these keywords, but I mean, this is not just quarterly. Like, yeah, we got to make money. We have to be sustainable as a company and make money and survive. We want to survive as long as possible. And the longer we survive, the longer we succeed, the more impact we can make on the world. Like that type of
Right.
thinking.
So you have to
So
manage the cash flow and that growth of investment.
yeah,
But at the same time, you want to grow quickly. You just gotta be
yes.
careful not to get ahead on
Don't get
ski
over your
analogy, get
skis.
over your
Yeah.
skis too much. But you also don't want to be sitting back too far.
Yes. It's a roller coaster ride. It's fun. It's exciting. But I mean, yeah. I mean, even like coming out, it's just like I always also equate, like you start a company and it's like, it's almost like raising a child. There comes a point where that child's got to get out of that basement and go to university or whatever, like live their own life and be among the other community members and like that type of thing. So that's kind of how I look at a company.
Yeah. So picking those initial any partners was probably very crucial. Did you have any words of advice on because at the end of the day, you're just sort of meeting you know, kind of a stranger at some point. Well, at one point, it was a they were strangers, right?
That is, that is, well, trust is the number one. That's the base foundation. And so two things, being at that entrepreneur event that was highly curated,
Sure.
they cut, if there were assholes, they were out. They, like, it's not based on your net worth. It's based on your net worth. And are you a good human? Like that is important. So it was already curated. So I knew I could trust these guys, but we did exercises about like, who are your values and how do we fit together? It's like, that's some of the most important decisions. Well, it would be probably it's like your life partner and your business partners, right? Like choose the right ones. Cause that's, and go through the work to get it right. And it's hard. It's always hard. And you got to set the egos aside and you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. But trust is the foundation of everything. So, yeah.
Right, because you're gonna hit obstacles along the way, roadblocks, you're gonna hit disappointments, they're gonna expectations. And then I always think of like I've had a few businesses and I realized that the probably one of the dangerous parts of a business cycle or growth is like once there's enough money coming in that it's kind of interesting and exciting, but it's not really enough for everybody to like, to really project their futures in this wild fantasy. It's just enough where if you don't have a strong team with the focus on the broader long-term goals, that team will then just focus on that in me and they'll start questioning each other's commitment and effort into it, right?
Yeah,
That's a real tricky spot,
it
you
is.
know?
And the goalposts keep moving. And you got to enjoy, like, are we like having fun and being creative, which creates a fun, creative environment. Like that's important. It's like that saying, those who enjoy the walk more than the destination will walk farther. So we got to like enjoy, like celebrate our wins. This is a long walk. We are going to walk as long as we can walk kind of thing. Right. And enjoy that walk. And it's hard, but that type of mindset and having like, yeah, let's have fun. Let's try and change the world and make things better. Like what else do you want to put your energy into? Like and even just from, we talk about like being a mission-based company, we attract top caliber people, high value, highly skilled. They could work wherever they want, but they want to use their skills as a force of good, right? Which is really exciting to have that type of team, those team members. Yeah.
We haven't even talked about just the employee strategy, the discussions around that. But yes, there are people that have high levels of skills that are holding them out. They don't want to just make another app or, for entertainment. They're looking for something a little bit more meaningful to make an impact. So yeah, Jeremy, we've got to get together again Is it what? So do you have a time frame for this other thing?
Next year
Maybe.
there'll be,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. The connected
Yeah.
version. Okay. Please. This is another. Well, hey, listen. This opportunity, you and I talking and getting it out on our, through the noise. That this is because we saw what you were doing, and we
Awesome.
were like, this is
The
amazing. I
marketing.
want to get in there. Marketing, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of the vision,
Yeah.
and then just the steadfastness of just sticking to it, and
Persistence.
for the
Yeah.
for the journey of it, not so much for the particular outcome. The outcomes will come if you do the journey right.
That's right. Yeah. It's great.
Jeremy, thank you. Somebody's got to buy Lomi,
Yeah.
okay, for Christmas. It's a good
Lomi.com.
gift.
Lomi.com.
Lomi.com. Buy one. Get it.
And Pela case. If you want to buy a compostable, sustainable phone case, check out Pela. Yeah.
What, Pela? How do I get to the cases on that
Just
side?
if you search Pela, it'll come up, or
It'll
Pela
be
case.
okay.
Yeah.
But I bet that business side, you're more like distributing it into like the distributors that have like the stores.
We're mostly online. We were getting into stores before COVID hit, but it's tough. Retail's tough, especially for phone cases. So we're mostly focusing online. And
You're not buying shelf space at the Verizon store or something. But if Verizon wants to give you some shelf space,
absolutely.
Come on, Verizon.
Yeah.
I could market this episode, this last bit, into a Verizon
That'd
channel.
be great. Make the shift towards sustainability.
All right, Jeremy Lang, founder, and what's your official title? Because you got a CEO.
Yeah, I VP sustainability. I do what I love. Focus on making new products and how can we be more sustainable as a company and that type of thing. So, which is a key thing too. Like, what's the ideal day look like for you? It's a good lesson for all of us.
Yes.
And it changes throughout your life. Not what does society think you need to be, right? What do you want to be? That's a part of that self-growth.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy. This was
thank
great.
you. That was awesome.
And thank you guys for listening. This kind of stories I want to keep bringing. So, subscribe, click. You know the deal. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Visit throughthenoise.us for more episodes and subscribe to our newsletter. This show is produced by Through the Noise Consulting, uniting external communications and internal IT functions to ensure data and privacy are protected while creating innovative communications platforms. Want to start your own podcast? We can help. Visit getthroughthenoise.com to learn more.